green, black pastel, super orange, black pastel, cypress without the yellow belly. You see the difference between that one and this one?
Mm-hmm. Look at, come here, I want to see it. Look at that.
She's like, let me go over
So
here.
that's without the yellow belly.
That's without the yellow belly.
She was.
Big difference.
Yep. Pretty, isn't it? Was you imagine taking care of all these snakes?
By myself?
By yourself?
Yes.
Yes?
It will be a little bit some harder, but a little bit easier. Because all you have to do is put them somewhere in the new bin, and then you just need to watch them, clean their poop, and then just grab them and put them back in. So simple.
Okay. Everybody, welcome to episode 65 of Reptiles and Cocktails. I'm gonna start this off by saying, Dre, get out of my face. You know what you did. So let's just say, if anybody know me, there's one Burmese python that I said that I would have purchased it, but it was like $45,000 4 or 5 years ago. Of course, the prices came down drastically. But it's at a point where I cannot buy another large constrictor. So Dre goes and buy the pied Burmese and didn't tell nobody. I didn't get a courtesy in the messenger. Hey, look what I did or anything. He just go flossing at y'all all over the websites and stuff. And then he didn't even tell your girl that he got her favorite Burm. And y'all know how we battle about the Burm versus the Retic. You nothing. You ain't bad. You ain't nothing. No. Like, really, Dre? That's how you want to tell me? So yes, beautiful animal though. You know I love them, but I guess maybe that's why you didn't tell me. I don't know. But guys, I am very excited about my guest today. When it comes to the large constrictor keeping, people who are in this for the right reason, people who are passionate, people who see our animals are animals of evolution, people who understand that they are pets. There's not many people, whether it's a keeper or breeder, that I can look at and say, you feel me. you get me without having a conversation. The person I'm actually going to bring on today, you don't love me. The person I'm going to bring on today is someone who actually reached out to me a couple years ago, and I did a very special video that he actually organized, which is one of my favorite videos still to watch today. Because it supported US ARC, and it also gave us an opportunity to share what our animals mean to us. And a lot of times I always say they're not just animals that we are assessed to keep. That's not what it is for us. For many of us, these animals are life-changing friends, companions that actually change our lives in one way, shape, or form for better. And with them, we are better people. And Gary is personification of that. Just all the way around a great keeper, the love and the time and effort that he puts even into his enclosure. I want to have him talk about some of his bioactive enclosures. He inspired me to start keeping isopods. I watched one of his videos and I was like, oh, that's it. I can do it. And then I was able to win some isopods for the US ARC Florida auction and started my own colonies. I got some chocolate zebras, and they are some really pretty isopods. I wasn't expecting to love the bugs, y'all. So I'm going to bring one out, guest, and I'm going to tell you guys already, this is going to be one of the ones that, because of the level of respect that I have for his life's journey, what he does now, some of his hobbies outside of this reptile thing. I mean, he's a granddad, we share a lot of the same passions. He's going to do a lot of the talking. I might have a question here or there, but pretty much Gary's a great speaker, and I'm sure he's going to cover a lot of the questions that I would have. So we're going to welcome him now to the stream. Hello, Gary.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
I am great. Everybody, just make sure you give me a thumbs up for the sound. I hear Gary well. I think he hears me well. We just want to make sure that you guys hear us as well. So, Gary, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm flattered whenever somebody asks me to talk about anything. Actually, it's an honor. It really is. It truly is. And I see a lot of people popping up in the chat that I know, so it makes me feel really good. It does. We do this. I do this because I love my animals, and for years, reticulated pythons have been in my family since I was a teenager. So I understand how they can have a negative light, and it's not about the snake, it's about the keeper. So once I really truly started to learn how to keep these animals properly, that's what really changed my direction and put me on the path that I'm on now.
And Gary, share that from your perspective. What do you mean by keep them properly? What does that look like for you?
Well, in my house, I have a routine, and I mean it's really about the animals. They come first. So waters, poops, things like that. I mean, this is just like the stuff that some of us may not even think about. Before I head out of the house, I'm checking enclosures. All of my animals are secured, so it's just like a thing. I go look, I check on them, and every day that I do this, my animals know I come in there. So they sense something as soon as I walk in. I've got 3 or 4 retics that will come out, and it's not that they're looking for food, but they just notice something changed in the room.
Yep.
And they come to the enclosure. I handle them. I handle these animals all the time. They don't get neglected. They don't sit. They're not hobby. They're not like picture shows. I live up in the middle of the mountains, so I don't have foot traffic in my house. It's just me and my wife.
You have some beautiful land. We're going to talk about that too, but go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and this is one of the things that I didn't want to do was get into mainland reticulated pythons. I thought they were too large. A story, right? My older sister had a 14-foot reticulated python when I was a kid. I was definitely afraid of that animal. She never handled it. It was in this big, and this was in the 80s. So there wasn't the internet. There wasn't all the information that's available today. People kept animals the way they kept animals. And unfortunately, when they got too big, they stopped handling them. And my sister was one of those people. Mind you, this is back in the 80s. And every time I go to my sister's house, every time I'd walk by that enclosure, this animal would just strike at the glass. And it scared the living death out of me, but intrigued me at the same time, you know? Not that I looked at that and said, well, what if you handled it more? But it was just the size of the animal. I've heard about reticulated pythons. I knew they were intelligent animals. I was intrigued, and I've been intrigued with reptiles my whole life. So, like I said, with reticulated pythons, they've been in my family my whole life. And one of the things that for me is like I said, I just make sure that they're handled all the time. They're very desensitized to human touch. And this one, I just got this one out here. I've had her for going on 3 weeks from D&T Retics.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Dax and Taylor.
Yes, I love those guys, and they are the reason I go to Arlington for NARBC, along with Chris McVicker and Sarah McVicker. A lot of the people that I met out there, just truly wonderful people. But she gets handled every day for a minimum of 20 minutes, and this is the result. This animal trusts me. And this is the result of all of my animals. They trust me. I handle them. I care for them. I am constantly searching on how can I improve my keeping skills. And that's kind of like it. That makes it interesting. When you see something doing something that you're not doing, and you see the animal thriving, and you see it you see it working, right? I start to think about, well, what if I did that? What if I implemented that? And if I do implement it and it works, it just keeps that part of I don't even like to call it a hobby anymore. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it keeps that more intriguing, more interesting, you know? So it's really about constantly thriving to what can I do to better purpose this animal in my life.
Mike from Herb Collector said it best one night on his show. He said, Nicole doesn't keep retics, she raised retics. And
Right.
I've said that ever since then. I'm like, that's it, Mike. That's it. It's not about the keeping of them. It's exactly what you said, is that the retics and the berms, but the retics even more, because you have the ability to go to another level with the retic intelligence compared to the berm. And Gary, there are times that I'll do things with the snake and then realize, oh my goodness, like it's realizing what I've done and it's doing what I wanted it to do, and recording it. Like one of my all-time favorites was showing people how my Molly Golden Child Sunfire favors my son. And if my son walks into the room, if I walk into the room, she'll still play sleep. She might even like look at me. But anytime my son walks into the room, Gary, she's alert, up, ready to get out. You don't have to hook this girl because she's just happy to see Michael. Not about food or any of that. None of that. She comes out. I recorded her showing. I said, Michael, go upstairs. The snake came out of her enclosure, went through this room, the next room, all the way up to the stairs, and stopped at Michael's feet. It was that day that I looked at my husband and I said, I can teach them anything. Anything. So
Right.
retics are so different in that way. And I think that's why I get so frustrated with the bad rap they get, because what you said, if you keep them correctly, you got one of the best animals ever.
Right. My opinion, I'm sure that other people will say that what they're keeping is the best, and I don't want to take that away from anybody. Retics are not for everybody. They just are not for everybody. But the person that they are for, if you take care of these animals, they'll take care of you. They're absolutely therapeutic to me. Absolutely. You said something. It's my grandkids come over I have a 9-year-old granddaughter. I have a 12-year-old granddaughter, and I've got a brand new granddaughter. My daughter just had a baby a couple of weeks ago. So, but my youngest granddaughter's, she's kind of afraid of the snake. She could like live or die without him. She's like, that's your thing. It's all good. But I've got my lavender albino mainland female. She's about 12 feet long, and she doesn't mind her. And I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because of her size, that she's a bigger animal, and she can see what she does more than something like this that's smaller and quicker and a little more intimidating.
The bigger ones are less intimidated, so they are normally easier to deal with and handle if they were raised up in a adequate environment.
Absolutely. And I'm also going to tag on, you talked about hooks, and I do use hooks on all of my retics. I will never, ever put anything out on social media with me pulling a retic out without a hook. And the only reason is because I don't ever want somebody to take a look at a video like that and go, oh, I could do that with my retic. Retics have the absolute, I was going to say the word worst, but they have a feeding response like absolutely no other. And complacency is where people get hurt. It really is. My mainland, I can take her out without a hook. Georgia, my 8-footer, I can take her out without a hook. Cora, my 6-footer, I can take her out without a hook. And I'll share that because it's the interaction, it's the relationship we have, it's the trust that we've built between each other. But I will never, ever put that out on social media, only because, like I said, I don't want anybody to get bit and go, well, I saw Gary do it, and how come I got bit? And maybe that's a lot to assume, but I think it's important that we teach that complacency can get you hurt with these animals. I mean, it's like when you ride a motorcycle. They don't say it's if you crash, it's when you crash, right? When you fall off the bike. With a retic, it's not if you get bit, it's when you get bit. And thankfully enough, in 4+ years of keeping retics consistently, I've only been bitten once. But it was complacency that got me bit. It wasn't the animal's fault. I took my eyes off the animal and I did something I wasn't supposed to do, and she let me know. So yeah, with hooks, I think it's important. I can't stress the importance of hook training your animals. And you know what? Hook training your animals gets them to that point where you can eventually gain that trust, open up that enclosure. They're coming out. They're looking at you. They're not trying to strike you. It's the curiosity of the animal. It's coming out at you. Its tongue's flicking. And I can know at that point, I'm not going to get bit. I can go and I can pet right underneath Cora's chin and she's going to be perfectly okay. But that's between me and Cora. That's not something that I'd ever want to subject somebody else to think that they can do unless they build that relationship and they're able to do that with their own animal, with what they learn together.
Absolutely. I don't know. I see that two ways, and I know we talk about this generally because I see it kind of opposite but the same. I do believe that you want to put disclaimers out there. However, I do believe that I go back and going back to what I said, that first experience I had when I realized I can teach them anything. So we know that they learn from routine. And I cannot remember her name, but it's a scientist. And she was the one who taught me, for example, just opening the doors, not forcing your retic out, just open the doors and letting them to come and, come out and go in as they please. And it was based on a study that she did. Now, I can also say, taking people along the journey of keeping reticulated pythons, one of the things that I want the world to know is that you can keep them in a certain way, and that you can keep them in a certain light, and that the vision of everybody seeing them lashing out at you all the time, and you trying to take their babies and them lashing out, that's not the case with every reticulated python. I'm personally convinced, Gary, that if you raise them up yourself, and you raise them with those routines, that the same risk that you have with owning the Rottweiler that I had, for example, the same risk is going to be the same risk with a reticulated python, but I don't feel that way about my boas. Right? So how you feel about the hooks with the retics is how I am about my boas. So I say that to say that you're absolutely right, because I wouldn't want no one to think that me handling the retic that way and you can come in here and handle my boas that way. And not that my boas would be defensive towards me. I can tell you that their food response, I have worked more with my reticulated pythons clearly, that their food response is worse. They can smell the food in the other room. A retic can have a rabbit right there, won't have a reaction to it. But because people would see the boa as a smaller snake, could assume that, well, she do that with the retics, let me go ahead and do it with the boa. And I don't stick my hand in none of my boa enclosures. I never have without a hook. So it's a confidence thing, I think, with me with the retics, based on just their intelligence, that I don't even have that relationship with the boas. What's the God truth? And you too, right?
Right. So if there was like this group of people that we could all share retic keepers, right? Like we didn't have new people looking in that weren't unsure about retics. Oh, I post videos all day of what I really do with my retics, pulling out like my 12-footer without the hook, how I rub her back. Yep. If I knew that wasn't going to get out anywhere, I would post things like that because you get it. If I was to talk in Dax and Taylor about it, they get it. If I was to talk to Tim from Intrepid Exotics, he'd get it. And we get it because we have that relationship. Again, I understand. I totally understand. And I know that there's two sides to that. I'm really protective, I guess I would say.
Because it's the other part. We talk about that. We'll talk the responsible keeping part. So let's say, and just hypothetically speaking, well, one of the things is I can tell you the reason why I started putting disclaimers is that even though my YouTube is not for children, it's blocked to children, somebody else can share it and the child can see it. And then the reality of it is that people are selling reticulated pythons to children. That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother one. But so that's why I started to put like all these disclaimers. I didn't at first, like 2 years ago, I didn't. Now I put a bunch of disclaimers because I do realize as a responsible keeper that can be just as bad as showing a live feeding if I don't put a disclaimer. A 13-year-old said, I watched Lady Tiz Exotics video and this is how the reticulated python, constricted my arm and, bit me really bad, because the reality of it is we see those teeth when they eat. Right. There are some... You don't see what's behind that head until that head actually opens. And it's like a shark's mouth almost.
It is. It absolutely is. It can be intimidating, but as a keeper, what's interesting is that the relationship, it falls back on that relationship where I can actually pet my big retics like a cat would, and I don't worry about what's inside their mouth, right? I can go right underneath their chin and stroke their chin, and I don't worry about them snapping back and tagging me or anything like that.
But you're watching the entire time too. That's another thing. I said to somebody, if you notice, I never take my eyes off this snake. As comfortable as this look, I'm 110% focused on everything, even down to the eyeball. Like I'm focused. So that's another thing that I realized that, that's those things, those details are important, Gary, to say if we're going to put it out there to help educate people. I do think those things are important to start detailing. It may look like I'm 100% free with this animal, but my eyes is 110% focused on it.
That's awareness is especially with big animals. If you're not keeping an eye on where they're going, they can get into things really quickly, and then you've got a problem. How do you get them out? Even as simple as chair rungs on a chair. You're sitting there, you're holding a good-sized retic, and all of a sudden it fishes its head between the chair rungs of a chair, and now you're trying to pull it out. 100%, you've got to keep your eyes on the animal. You've got to be aware of the animal. You got to know where it's going. Abby, the curly-haired keeper, right? She said it best, and I think that's the best way to ever describe this is that you have to go with the energy of the animal. You can't go against the energy, because if you go against, especially with a big retic, if you go against the energy of that animal, it is going to be a workout. It's not going to be a fun experience.
Right.
But if you start to go with the flow of that energy of the animal, now we're having fun, right? Like now we're experiencing and we're having a good time, and it becomes this wonderful experience, a confident experience, and that's what I aim for.
And so, even with that being said, there is like the older the reticulated python to me, of course, the more you've done this with, and they're a little bit more or less challenging. But let's say I'll use my Motley Golden Child Sunfire, for example. One of my sweetest snakes, one of the ones that y'all see me with all the time. I'm sorry, my grandkids upstairs. I'm like, what is that? Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. So she's one of my sweetest ones. But if I go in there and I touch her and she bumps me, I might go in there a second time. If she bumped me the second time, I close the door. And that just means she don't want to be bothered. You know how I know? She doesn't do, like, she's not going to bump me if she wants to be bothered. And that is another part of it where a lot of people, when you said they're not for everybody, in order for you to read them that way and not try them, because, you know, as comfortable as I am, I'm not going to try a 16-foot snake. What I mean by that is that if she bumps me twice, all right, see you later. I can come back 2 hours later and she's ready to come out. Same snake, pull the door open, she just come out. And those are things that I don't think enough videos are out there, Gary, about, like, to show, okay, in keeping them, you know, you can have this response or you can have this response from the same exact snake. And what do you do in the case of each response? What is the best recommendation for each response? And mine is to close the door if a Motley Golden Child at 16 feet bump you twice.
That's, you know what? That's exactly how I got bit. She Paula bucked in my hands. I had her and she bucked. And I did not listen to that. I decided that she was coming out anyways. Yeah, and you know what? I should have done exactly like you said and shut that door. But that's, you know, when we get bit, it's because, speaking for myself, it's because I stopped paying attention. I decided to go against the grain and think that I've got control of the situation. And it's really easy just to say, okay, you know, not right now, come back a couple hours later, like you said, and they're fine. Our animals can have days. And that's another thing that we don't show so much is that, like, I have my pied, for instance. If I can't get my pied out in one sweep, I can't, because then he's riled up. He gets kind of testy if I don't get him out, if I keep trying, if I'm like overly anxious on getting him out. But if I pick him up and pull him out in one fell sweep, he's fine. No problems at all. I've got one of my super dwarfs that's like that. I have a 68.75% Kalatoa. That's, if I can't get her out on that first attempt, then I'll come back a couple hours later and try again. You know, that's how I have to respect my animals' behaviors. That's what it boils down to.
And that's the thing. So one of the things that a lot of times people reach out to me at middle of the night. My retic is behind the sofa. This is one of my favorite ones. What should I do? I have to see that retic. Like, I can't just tell you what to do. Get me on FaceTime, put me behind. And there's times where, you know, I said, okay, you're good. Just, you know, take the hook and then pull them, get them in. There's other times I have said, you might want to sit there and wait till that snake gets tired. And it's going to come out on its own and then put it back in. You don't want to reach in there right now. And you can see it from the camera. They are very matter-of-fact animals. I always say that reticulated pythons to me are not, they are very intentional. You know, I'm good right now or I'm not good right now. Now, how this goes, because it might be sometimes, Gary, like in that case that you had, let's say it was a whole bunch of poop and urine or something like that, that you may have to went that second extra mile and took that risk, right? For me, that wasn't a moment. And even then, it's not that extra urine is not going to hurt them an extra 2 hours. Like he probably sat there through it overnight. It's not going to hurt them another 2 hours for me to wait and do that. So what I always say, you have to respect the animal. I think they are perfect animals if you respect the fact that it's still an apex predator. It's still a powerful animal. But no different from what you would, like I said, a Rottweiler. You know, I own one. And one of the things I don't allow is for my grandkids to roughhouse the Rottweiler. Not that he would intentionally harm them, but a play bite from him can be allowed.
Right. So yeah, that's it's one of the things with one of my older granddaughters, I'll watch her hold a snake. She watches me hold the snakes all the time, so she's like a natural. But on the same flip side, you know, she doesn't come over just to hold the snakes. She likes watching. She likes learning. She likes watching me interact with them, and it's really neat to watch how they actually sit there and they'll handle the snake and they'll do the whole hand through hand motion, and the snake will coil up. It's as a grandfather, right? As a person that has been involved in reptiles for some time. My daughter, she does not like snakes. She respects them, but she's not a snake person. So watching this go into another generation of interest, of curiosity, of intrigueness, of wonder, of discover and learning and all that stuff, that just fills my heart, right? Because I love giving this stuff away. And you know what? In the long run, if my grandkids decide that, reptiles aren't for me, that's okay. But you know what they're going to learn is they're not these mean, vicious animals that they see on the internet. You know, they're going to say, hey, my grandpa has snakes that size and they're really nice.
Exactly. And I think too, like for me with the reticulated python, unlike you were exposed to him at a younger age. It was the animal that I only watched on like National Geographic and stuff like that. And then when I got of age, I was like 18 and I wanted one. You know, back then it was only like the Tom Crutchfields who had them, and they were not all that tamed out the wild at that particular time. And then I think it was my daughter was born in 95. I think it was like 1997. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get one. And just started reading on them at that particular point and studying about them. I was laughing the other day because one of the authors of one of the books that I had read was in my personal Facebook. I kept saying, why does this name sound familiar? Why does this name sound familiar? And then one day it clicked me. I said, you wrote a reticulated python book. And he was like, yes. I was like, oh my goodness, I read that book. So now to be like, you know, socializing on a friendship level with the same people that I once studied is absolutely amazing. To be able to have that relationship with Kevin, you know, Kevin is, and I say it to him all the time, he was the Michael Jackson of reptiles for me. So now, like having Michael Jackson as my best friend, you know, it's just absolutely still mind-blowing to me. And I'm very protective of him because knowing him even more, you know, it's just like you are way more phenomenal than what I thought you were, because then you realize that he is just like you. You know, he's just like you. And that's where all of the passion and the development and the growth into the animal kingdom came from him. But if you took all the money and the facility and everything away, he's just like us.
Right.
And I think that's what we have to never forget. So I take offense. There's a quote, and I won't put out names, but if you've seen it, you know what I mean, that says you have to put the obsession of owning the animal over the obsession of keeping. So my thing is that it's not an obsession for most of us. Like you, like me, you said it, like they are everything. They are part of our lives. And I'm not obsessed with keeping. They are a part of what I need to keep, if that makes sense. It's not an obsession. I mean, obsessions are things that are not necessarily good for you. Sometimes.
Trust me on that one.
You know what I'm saying? These things are great for me. But I think that, how do you balance, because you also are a musician.
Yes.
So can you talk about that, like how you balance it all? So let me just say, guys, not only is he a musician, he's a husband, he's a grandfather, but he also has a massive amount of, it looks from the distance, of land. How do you maintain all of that with other animals?
So that part of it's more my wife's thing. She's a huge animal lover. I mean, to quote my wife, we were sitting on the couch one night. It was pouring rain out here, and she was stating how she wishes she could have jackets for all the animals that were outside in that rain. And I'll never forget her saying that. Although I know her love for animals and how much she cares about them, but when you've got somebody that's that close to you and she's concerned about animals being out in the wet rain, right? It just shows that I believe that she's been placed on this earth for the welfare of animals. I truly believe this. I could do a whole nother hour on just my wife and what she does for animals. But we have 5 acres up here, and we've got horses, and we've got goats, and we've got pigs. We've got 2,000-pound Hampshire pigs, and they're pets. They're not food. They're pets. This is my wife's doing, and that's her dream. So the animals, we've got 3 dogs, I'm sorry. We've got all the snakes. We've got a Euromastix, a gecko, a tegu, a beardy. We've got 2 sulcata tortoises, redfoot tortoise, a 54-year-old California desert tortoise, and a Russian tortoise. So she's got a routine just like I have a routine. She gets out there, she takes the dogs out with tennis balls, and she runs the dogs 3 times a day. And while she's doing that, she's out there feeding the animals, she's feeding the horses, she's feeding the goats, she's feeding the pigs, she's taking care of the dogs. I mean, it's like, and I'll tell you, a lot of what I learn and the passion is from her, watching her do what she does. And so there's a lot in that. And realistically, my side is not that difficult. It's really not. I've got 12 snakes. Okay, so 12 snakes. I've managed to hold 3 or 4, maybe 5 snakes a day. I recycle them out, and I kind of go in and I've got a schedule. So they're all getting handled, they're all getting checked, everything's taking place. And if you were to take an hour of my day, 40, actually say maybe an hour and a half of my day, it's dedicated at different times throughout the day for my snakes. Where she's probably taken 5 to 6 hours of her day out on the field, on the property. And that's when I like to take like my bigger snakes out. I'll just let them out in the horse arena and let them stretch out and go and do it. And I had my big retic out this morning in the nice cool grass because it's starting to get warm here. And I just love watching her do what she does. My wife's father passed away last February. And I learned a lot about what she has to do here because, you take for granted. I mean, we've been married for 17 years. We've been together for almost 20 years. And, day in and day out, we've been together for so long. She does her thing. She does my thing. We come together. But I don't tend to pay attention so much to what she does, right? But when her dad passed away, she had to go to her mom's and help out with her family, which is a little bit away from here. And she was afraid of leaving, right? Because she didn't think I could take care of the animals. That's the bottom line. Let's not candy for this thing, right?
That's what it really was.
So I told her, I said, hey, listen, you've got to take care of your family. Go do what you got to do. I'll take care of the animals. I'll take care of the farm, right? So for a week, my wife was gone, right? And I would get up, I'd go feed the horses, I'd go feed the goats, I'd go feed the pigs. The dogs have medications. I'd dilly out the medications. I'd feed the dogs, handle the snakes, go to work, do my thing, come back home. Sometimes come back home early, and I'm repeating everything again. Come Friday night, right? My wife's supposed to be home on Saturday. Come Friday night, the dishes aren't done, the laundry's not done, but the dogs are fed, and all the animals are fed, and my wife's supposed to be home. I'm ready to tear my hair out because I don't know how, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how she does it, right? But I got the dishes done, right? And I got the laundry done, and all the animals were good. And my wife came in, she gave me a kiss, she said, I love you, and she left. She got to change clothes and do whatever she did, and she left, right? And you know what I took away from that? She trusted me. She realized that none of the animals were hurt, everybody was good. But it was also in that time period that I really got to understand what my wife does around here. You know, and she does a lot. She does it. So shout out. We've got women who rocking Retics tonight. And it's got nothing to do with separation, right? What it has everything to do with is celebrating women that own reptiles. You know what I mean? This isn't the 80s anymore. This is the 21st century. And women are keeping Retics in sometimes better than men are. So why not celebrate them in that fact, right?
Let me tell you, when I met Dax at Tinley, let me shout out to him. When he came to me, first of all, when I first started keeping Retics, there were a lot of people in the other worlds of the Retic Nation that, you know, don't look at women or did not look at women keeping Retics as much as you and a lot of other people. Tim was one of the ones who gave me respect from day one. Dax pulled me up in Tinley and we just started talking. First of all, he was shouting me out. I didn't even know he realized, you know, how much I did with the animals. And then he thought to talk about Taylor. And what he said is, I couldn't do this without her. Like, she's really the one who keeps the Retics. Like, he was like, I can't do this without her. And I thought that was just so honorable, you know, because he could have faked the funk and act like, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, D&T Retics is me and Taylor. What he made clear was, if there was no Taylor, there would not be any Retics on the D&T.
I go to Arlington for NARBC in September, and I got the chance to go over to Dax and Taylor's house, and wonderful people, absolutely wonderful. And I'll be honest, right? I just flew in from California to Texas. We went to dinner. I was whooped. I was tired. I wanted to go back to the Airbnb. I wanted to relax. And Dax and Taylor were like, oh, come on, man, you got to come over. You got to check everything out. And they convinced me. I said, you know what? We're on vacation. Let's go check it out. So we went over to their house, and I'm looking at their house going, hey, honey, check it out. We could do this, and we can add more enclosures. We can move closure. I mean, they have an amazing setup. If you ever get the chance to go to Dax and Taylor's house in McKinney, Texas, it's a treat. It really is. And they're such good people. They really are. The community that has surrounded me has been wonderful. And you talked about Kevin, right? And you guys are my heroes. You're my hero. Tim from Intrepid Exotics, somebody I look up to. Chris McVicker, I look up to him. There's a lot of people, you know, Aubrey Pruitt from A&B Exotics, I look up to him. Lucas Bagnera, there's just a lot of people that I look up to that have either given me ideas, shown me things, helped me out. And Garrett Hartle, you know, and I know that Garrett's one of the bigger names in the industry, but I'll tell you that when we did that we've done 2 USARK videos, and it was the one that you did. Garrett actually got in contact with me, and he sent me a video. And what I got from that experience was this big guy on YouTube that's really super, you know, knowledgeable about super dwarfs, and everybody looks up to him. And he's this human being that cares about the industry and the hobby, and he cares about USARK, and he cares that other people care about USARK.
Exactly.
And it wasn't like he had people like my messages were coming through 4 different people. He was directly messaging me. And I just really appreciated that. I mean, that's really the only interaction that I've had with Garrett, but you know, I look up to that. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm gonna talk about that because it was after I did that video, I believe it was that March Tinley. I'm at his booth, and that's where he recognized me from, was that video. So we put a booth together, and he'll tell you, he was like, I know you. Did you just do a video? And I can't remember the guy who was with him. He was like, yes, that's her. He was like, yeah, that's her. He's like, I thought I knew you. He was like, thank you so much. It was an awesome video. And we snapped that picture together. So it's one of my favorite videos that I ever done, I'm gonna be honest. First of all, when you reached out to me, of course, we see each other on YouTube. I knew who you were, but I didn't know who you were. I didn't even realize, other than like the videos that I was seeing of you on your deck, and you would take some very beautiful videos on the deck of your animals, that you kept other species as well. But it's one of my favorites that I ever done. I still go back and look at that video. The passion behind that video was amazing as well. I think that too, I want you to talk about your experience with volunteering at USR, because I'll say what it was for me. It was so rewarding because I finally felt appreciated from the people. I finally felt appreciation for USR, for the people. It was so many people who came to the booth that I did not know existed, because you don't see these people supporting USR as much publicly. But you are consistent. Tim is consistent. I'm consistent. There's so many people that is joining the realm of consistency. What is the experience? I want you to talk about volunteering, then talk about your total experience of being so supportive for USR and the why.
So my experience with volunteering with Vanessa in Sacramento, I'm going to tell you, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. In a very populated area like we are in Northern California, you would think that there'd be more of a presence of USARK here. And I was surprised, even talking to a guy that breeds, sells venomous animals, had never heard of USARK. People coming by in there, and I would stop them. You know, it's like you make the eye contact with them and say, hey, you ever heard of USARK? And they stop, and you start to explain what USARK is. They've got a brand new animal in the deli cup, and they're like, "Oh, we're not interested," and they walk off. Or you talk, people that there were. I mean, and I also want to include that there were people that they had heard of USARK. Mm-hmm. They also, this just was after the FWC incident that took place.
Right.
So people had heard about that, and they said, "You know what? We need to become USARK members." I think we signed up 23 members on Saturday. New members.
That's amazing.
For USARK, but. I was really blown away at what USARK, anybody who volunteers in the booth, whether it's Vanessa or whether it's anybody else, what they really go through, in an 8 or 10 hour period at a reptile show, trying to a lot of the breeders, Nicole, they didn't want anything to do with USARK. The bad thing was I saw the video that she posted yesterday, and it depicts a whole bunch of breeders. But I was up at somebody's booth saying, "Hey, you know what? When you're done buying that animal, you should go over to USARK and become a member." And the breeder and the buyer both looked at me like I was insane. Like
was the Sacramento show a new show?
No, this is a show. This is like their 30. I want to say it's been going on for 30 plus years.
Wow. So my experience at Tinley is totally opposite from your experience, and it's. I wonder what the difference is. Is USARK normally at the Sacramento show every year like they are at a Tinley?
Well, that was the second time I've been to the Sacramento show, and the last time I was there, USARK wasn't there. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that Vanessa was coming out until the day before. Vanessa and I have been in contact because I'm going to be in the USARK booth at Arlington in September. Mm-hmm. So I saw a post that she was packing up and coming out to Sacramento. So I messaged her and said, "You're coming to Sac?" And she said, "Yeah, we're going to set up a booth." I said, "Well," so that's how I told her, I said, "I'll spend the day Saturday with you," So, but yeah, it was very, I don't know. When I was in Arlington, and I wasn't in the booth in Arlington, but USARK definitely had much more of a feel and presence at NARBC than it did at the Sacramento Reptile Show.
And that's what it is. NARBC is doing a good job of promoting USARK and having the presence there. And so I guess that's where, when we talk about, with Vanessa, what we can do better, and we was talking about having those presence at different shows, even locally and things like that, that's where I think it's going to benefit it, because my experience working the booth was just like, wow, people do care. And even with the vendors, Gary, there was vendors donating $2,500, $5,000 snakes to the auction. Like it was nothing. Like, hey, we're here for your donation. Oh yeah, I got you. They were excited to donate. So how do we change the culture in these other pockets? I guess would be the focus.
Right, and this can be controversial what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyways because I like what Tim's saying right here.
Say what you have.
Why do we have to have things like this to wake people up? Why do we have to have an incident take place? Lacey ban, animal program bans, the FWC. Why do we have to have something like this for people to wake up and go, oh, maybe I should become a USARK member? I don't get it. I'm a guitar player. If I'm going to go out on tour with a guitar, I'm not going to take my guitar out without a case. I want that guitar protected.
That's right.
USARK is our protection.
Yep.
I mean, when was the last time you sat in front of the TV at 6 o'clock and watched the news and saw something that said, by the way, the state of California wants to ban reptile keeping, news at 11. USARK is doing that for us. They're giving us all the information and they're doing all the work. When was the last time all we have to do is just go to USARK and fill out a form? There's people in our community who are actually filling out the forms for us and putting it out and saying, hey, if you want to do this, just put your name in and sign it off. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so simple. I'm giving away free USARK memberships. I will give people $40 to get themselves a membership. Buy a damn membership for each one of your reptiles. I don't care. Because in the end, what's going to happen is that when you've got 5 million people in America that own reptiles, right? And there's 15,000 people that are USARK members, that doesn't help us out as a whole. It really doesn't. We have to broaden our base. And I don't know how to do it. I've talked to Phil and I've talked to Vanessa and I've talked to a bunch of us, and we were all just kind of banding together and saying, hey, what can we do to help this out? What can we do to it's not so much even as a promotion. Let's make it attractive. I mean, hey, some dude's going to give me $40 for a membership. Okay, I'm on board. I don't know. I've only been a USARK member for about 2.5 years now. And in 2.5 years, I think it's the best $40 a year, or actually I was a silver member. And then I started to think, well, if I'm going to spend $200 on a membership, I might as well buy 5 memberships.
When you said that, I thought that was really, really, really smart. And you know what we can do is figure out what can we do for the people far as status, USARK status. If you do that, you should still be a silver member. You should still, if you do that with the total amount of gold, that would be a good promotional way to promote more memberships, because the fact that you did that is gold. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more beneficial for you to spread that dollar amongst other people to add more people into the membership pool than it is to say, okay, I have a silver when I could have just gave 5 memberships. That's genius. So maybe that's something we can talk to Vanessa or Phil about like, okay, Vanessa, it would be a great idea, like for Gary's case, maybe he should still be a some type of honorary member. Not that you care, but I'm just saying, the reality of the millennials is that they do. They like a status. So we got to make sure that we're targeting all aspects. And right now, the biggest threat to the hobby is that pocket for me. Like, it's not the people who've been keeping 40 years. If you're still keeping 40 years later, you are passionate. You could have gave this up a very long time ago.
Absolutely.
But if you're just keeping, we need you to be as passionate in order for us to be able to allow our grandkids to keep.
One of the things I've been in discussion with Phil and Vanessa about is what I'd like to see on the USARK website is a donation pool where someone like me can donate $100, and then somebody can go to USARK, click on a button, and get a free USARK membership. And they gotta put their information in. They put their credit card in, but it doesn't charge them, but it has their information. And I say this to everybody that I've ever bought a membership for. Save the $40 for the next one. You get a free membership, one and done. Hopefully in 12 months, you can save yourself 40, or, if you want to go bigger, but save yourself that money. And then if there's no money in the pool, then there's no button to click. But we can help. I can help. There's other people just like me. We can help. We can donate money to USARK. They can put that into a pool, put it onto the website. And if somebody who might not be able to afford a membership, they can go click on and get a free membership. That's the easiest way for us to help. The other thing, and I ran this by Phil, and with the help of a friend of mine, Jen Coughlin, we created a pamphlet that if you go to a reptile expo where USARK is not present, you can get that pamphlet. But the problem is Phil approved it for me to take it to a show that I did, but it's not on the website yet. So it's something that they're working on. And I think hopefully we're going to see it soon. That's what I'm being told. But that's some of the stuff that
I said the same thing to Vanessa. Like, there should be something on the website where anyone can just go shop for USARK paraphernalia. Of course, like certain things you wouldn't want, like you need to verify who it is if you're using banners and stuff like that. But like buttons to just, represent USARK, to pass out to people and stuff like that. And then those dollars can also create, generate more donation dollars or financial dollars for the actual nonprofit. It's just so much more that can expand on from that end. And again, it's not a lot of people operating USARK, so is it where, maybe you find more people to be full-time volunteers, to be supportive to everything that they do, because they can't do it alone. Phil is traveling all around the United States. Vanessa, I don't even know where she get her energy from. She runs her own business and she stays on the plane and somehow finds a way to take a vacation in between. Like, I don't know how she do it.
You're in California right now.
I saw that yesterday. Like, she just got back from somewhere and then was right back. She's in Napa Valley. I'm like, I don't know where you get the energy, love, but I mean, she's dedicated to it and she's happy. So working with her, like at Tinley, like even during the chaos of, I would say organized chaos, because she is so organized, of getting all the donations and everything in place for the auction, her smile and her energy stays there 110%. And I am not a person who can smile all day. I need my break so I can go somewhere and not smile. She literally was on go all day long. And I laughed when I first got to the booth area. I said, all right, so what am I supposed to do? My crash course was less than 1 minute and she made me an expert of running that booth.
Exactly. One of the things I really enjoyed about working with Vanessa is in conversation. She told me on numerous occasions, I wouldn't do this if I didn't believe in it. And that is such a true statement, no matter what you do.
That's right.
I wouldn't do this if I didn't believe in it.
That's right.
I believe in USARK. And when I say USARK, I include USARK Florida. I mean, I don't want to be redundant, but it is the same. It's not the same, but it is the same. I have as much passion for USARK Florida as I do for USARK, so I don't want to feel like they're being left out or not being represented, because trust me, if you go to my Instagram page, if you buy a USARK bronze membership, which is $30, I believe, and you need to be reimbursed for it, you just screenshot me that receipt and I will Venmo or PayPal you the $30. Whatever it takes. We're all in this together. This isn't a I thing or a they thing. This is a we thing. And whether, I don't care if you own a gecko. I don't care what you own. I don't care. As a matter of fact, it's going into birds and fish. So I don't care what you own. We got to stand together on this.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, that's the two common things, like I said, that you and I share is the passion for U.S. hog for sure, and the passion for these animals. Also, I talked about the community. There's a side of the community that I do not connect with at all because it's so negative. You know, it's so competitive. It's so negative. It doesn't want to see these animals how we want to see them. And then there's this other side that's you and a lot of other people. That's why I'm so excited about tonight to be with the ladies, because you've opened my eyes to how many more women are keeping reticulated pythons, you know. And I'm grateful for that, because it's a whole nother community that we as a woman can tap into to help educate about these animals as well. Because the reality of it is like you said, they're not for everybody, but you know, for the person like me who could have owned one 20 years ago, if I had the right representation of one in front of me and the right people showing me, you know, what I need to know about these animals, because I don't believe retics are textbook animals. I tell people that all the time. You have to own one to master one. Now, you should know some basics of them, like, you know, the whole training and feed response and things like that. But you never know one until you actually keep one, and you never know one until different stages of their lives. Like the retic at 5 feet and the retic at 14, 16 feet is two different snakes.
I often tell people, and a lot of people don't agree with me, but I often say that people should own a 12 to 14 foot retic first for like 3 to 4 months, and find out what it takes to feed them, find out what it takes to house them, find out what their requirements are, handling, how difficult a very gentle puppy dog tame retic is to handle. When the retic wants to go, right? And then after 3 months of interacting and handling and feeding and doing all that stuff, if you still think a reticulated python is right for you, then go get a baby. You know,
I said, my only thing is, I don't think I could have started with a 14 foot because of the, you know, the fear I had. I mean, that's the reality. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get one. I really want one, but I got to handle it. But once it was here, it was like, all right, girl, come on. We got to do this every day. We're going to do this for about 20 minutes. And then when I realized, like, okay, she's not even, I mean, she had her feed response for probably a year. Like, if she didn't, for a long time, that didn't go away. It's like now that she actually had children, though, she actually had children. She actually had babies in a clutch. She's way more chiller than she actually was even before she had them. But it's amazing at watching them at different stages of their lives. Like my males, you talk about your pod. My male pod is one of the ones that I actually trust the most. But my golden child, whether it's the golden child cow or the mountain golden child sunfire, something about the golden child, they got days. They got days that, or maybe it's, you know, they're two females. I don't know. They got days where they just don't want to be bothered. I'm good over here. I'm sleeping, or I'm good over here. I see everything that you're doing, but I just don't want to come and interact with you today.
Right.
And then
Imagine that. We all kind of have days like that. So I'm sure I've had a day or two where I'm like, I don't want to be bothered right now.
Exactly. And the reality of it is what I also talked about is that I look at these like we were once looked at. Humans were not always thinking or thought to be thinking beings. You know, it was what? Homo erectus, and then we became Homo sapiens, you know. We evolved. So I think that we all have the potential to evolve, and our animals do too. It's just that because we can't, as humans, communicate with the animal like they can communicate with each other. Because I tell everybody, my first breeding of retics was not me breeding them. They knew they were both ready, and they did it all on their own very quickly. And she had everything happen for her successfully, you know, the way that it would happen. I didn't do that. They knew. And when I think about all the times that they interacted together and how fast they did what they did that day, they knew what they were doing. So I think that we don't give them credit for the ability to think. Like we not once had the ability, or we didn't get credit for the ability to think. It was one time we didn't get credit for the ability to stand up straight. but we do, and we can. And so I believe all animals, whether it's a retic or a king cobra or a corn snake, whatever it is that you choose to keep responsibly, that you have to understand that animal the best way that you can in order for it to be a successful relationship. And if you're not willing to do that, it's never going to work, specifically with a retic. Specifically. Or king cobra.
Exactly. And my experience is that retics are thinking animals. They are absolutely thinking animals. I think they're always one step ahead of where they're at. And their eyes, I love watching their eyes move. I think that kind of tells that's a telltale. But they're definitely, I've owned everything from, I've never really got into colubrids too much, but ball pythons, boas, of the snakes I've owned, reticulated pythons are definitely the most interactive. They're definitely, I stutter and stop, right? Because if I say relationship, somebody might argue that point, right? But they're my animals, and I know what they do. And I feel
by definition of relationship, that's what you have.
I walk into my reptile room, and Cora comes out of her hide, and she lays on the glass on the front. She just lays there. And she knows that I'm going to come and get her. And I look at that and I think to myself, what else would that animal be thinking? Where does a snake get the idea that its owner is going to open up that enclosure and pull it out?
That's right.
And then you can't tell me there's not intelligence in that.
It's extreme intelligence. I can't tell you which ones are going to do what when I walk into this room.
Right.
It's the reason why I don't do hair down in this room, because I don't want them to want to come out on a Friday night all the time, Right.
And I have that with a lot of my animals in different ways. Georgia, I'll open up the glass and she'll perch right up like she's sunbathing or something, right? And she's just, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. Come on, come get me. I'm ready. And she'll just stand there, and I'll take the hook and I'll rub her neck and I'll go get her. And it's like, where else? Most of my boa constrictors, every time I go to get them out, they just lay there until you get them out. They just lay there. My retics, way different. Absolutely, their intelligence lets them know they have mannerisms about them that will let me know that they know I know they're there. You know what I mean? Not to sound confusing, but they're smart animals. They're absolutely smart animals, what it comes down to.
So, and they're all different, and we get that, but you have to know which ones is which. And I tell people all the time, I don't have the same approach with every last one, but I have quite a few of them who are just like what you said. The moment I walk into this room where the adults are, like I sometimes won't even turn on all the lights because I know what that means for them. Like, she's here, and they're gonna all want to come out. I'm laughing at Tim's comment. Tim said they can be wrong.
I love Tim.
But yes, but I do think that I have some that respond to. I have some that they say you're not supposed to hear music. One of them, if you pay a certain amount of music, it makes them come to that side of the enclosure, and it will sit there just listen to music. I have some that you talk about tickling the chin. That tickling of the chin means to raise up to me. I taught them that. There's other ones, if I tickle their chin, they just turn it away. It's a different relationship, but the older they get and more consistent that they are, like you talk about Cora, if you just don't get her every time she do that, at some point she doesn't trust you or understand you anymore, and then you get a whole different animal at some point. Right. Maybe an animal who's now pushing every time they want to get out. Right. Because you open it and you recognize it, you may not get an animal that pushes as much. And I think those are the things that we have to consider, because they can think. And another thing is that behaviors, watching their behaviors. I always say that all of them I don't have to treat the same. I have one that I can honestly tell you, if I never took her out of enclosure, she is happy as I don't know what in that enclosure. I open her doors just like I do everybody else's. She will not come out unless I go in there and take her out. She's good. Now she'll come to the end and sit there and watch you, and she'll watch all those other snakes go past her, and nothing prompts her to come out of her enclosure. Whatever that means for her, I don't know, but it works for me because it works for her.
Right. Absolutely. My none of my animals, they all come out, but I have a golden child that's a little bit different. That if I can open up the enclosure once and she comes flying out because she thinks she's getting fed. She just comes flying out. Then there's other times she can be laying right in front of that glass. I can open it up and she just kind of perks her head up at me and looks at me and says, okay, you know, but it's behaviors. I have to watch what they're doing and be cognizant and treat them with the respect that they deserve.
Yep. And I think if you do that, you know, and like I said, always remember that they are the longest snake. They are apex predators. I'm even watching sometimes them go into their predator behavior. Like if they're hiding behind a water bowl per se, I don't test them. I don't reach behind there. I don't know why they hiding behind the water bowl. I know that you are apex predator. This may be an ambush. I think like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not the time that I'm reaching in there to go pick them up. I'm like, I'm from around that bowl first. Let me see the tongue flicker. And then we got a relationship. But it's funny how even seeing sometimes I have those big water bowls and they'll go and they'll just be in the water. You just see their little head. I understand that they may see me, but this is still ambush predator behavior. I'm not just going to reach out there and pull you out the water. So just making those type of things. And that's one of the things that I love showing people like who reach out to me behind the scenes, because those things can make them nervous. And I'll show them, this is what I do. If they're hiding behind the bowl, I'll move the bowl first because the bowl can still act as a barrier. Then if I can see them, and I can see the face, then I determine what their body is saying or what they're trying to say to me. But I'm not reaching behind the bowl. I don't care how much we are together. I'm not putting my hand behind the bowl with a 16-foot snake.
Right. I don't know how many people actually own Retics that are watching this. I know that Abby does and Tim does, and there's a few other people, but one of the things that, I mean, as far as like my wife, she does not get the snakes out. She said, I don't want her to get the snakes out. It's something that she doesn't really have that desire, but on the same plane, it's like, there is a lot that goes into doing that. Really? And you had mentioned earlier that I have a lot going on in my life. And one of the things that I do, I'll be very candid. Yeah, I'm a musician. Sometimes I go out on tour probably once or twice a year for sometimes up to 22 days or so. And my wife has to feed the animals. And one of the things for her is that for the first time she had to do it, she was like, well, why can't I just mold up vegetables and make them look like a dead rodent, right? And it's that in itself, you know, when you've got a retic and you've got to open that enclosure up, I don't know about anybody else, but when they start to hear those keys unlock on the enclosure,
you go right up. Yeah.
Okay, what's going on? You know, if they're not already out there.
Wait a minute, Gary, but they can't hear. They can't hear though, Gary.
No, they can't, not at all. Somehow they know, but you take that enclosure off, and I've got to teach her to use the other side as a barrier. You can't just stand in front of the glass that you've opened. You've got to actually make sure that you're protected. Yes. Always use a hook. Open up the glass with a hook. I have man tongs, right? They're like 4 or 5 feet long. So she can actually stay quite a few feet away from the enclosure and feed the animals that she's got to feed. And I'll never forget. I don't know where I was. I probably was on the East Coast. She calls me, she goes, I did it. I said, and she's so frantic about what she's calling me about. I'm like, what happened? She goes, no, I did it. I said, what did you do? She goes, I fed all the snakes.
Oh.
And it's about, you know, teaching her how to unthaw the animals properly, you know, because we don't feed live here. Nothing gets live food. So you've got to properly unthaw the animals. there's a process, right? You go through and you feed the animals. You got to open the cages correctly. You got to go in there safely. And then if something happens where one of them lunges out and they're hanging outside the enclosure with that animal, you've got to be confident to know that you can pick that animal up, place it inside the enclosure without them. And I've never been bit. They've never taken their teeth out of their animal to come.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think once at that point, once they haven't wrapped. Now, again, I'm not taking no chances if they didn't wrap it yet. But once they haven't wrapped, the focus is on the food. They forgot everything else that was going on. But sometimes it can be heavy to lift them. Like if you got one of the bigger ones and they got that big old rabbit in and you're trying to lift them, it takes sometimes like me and my son, to just push the rabbit all the way in. But I've got it for most of them where I literally don't. I can just throw the rabbit in. They won't react until the door closed. But the subadults, man, the moment they see that glass come back and they can smell the rabbit, you know what I'm saying? You just literally have to. I got the ones that's probably about 45 inches, 52 inches, I think, long, and I'll hold it in there because I'm nowhere near. Because I don't want to be the person, especially with some of my females, when they hit, they hit. they hit those rats. And they're not alive. They will sit there and squeeze them. Like they go through the whole process. So that thought process that they have to, have this hunting mentality. No, mine will take a frozen thought and wrap it and squeeze the water out of it like it's actually alive before it swallows.
I've had them pop them before, so they hit with force and they treat it like they're getting something that a live animal. But there's a lot that goes into it. There is absolutely a lot that goes into it for somebody that doesn't actually handle the retics on a daily basis. So I'm confident that when I go out on tour, she can take care of the animals. I don't necessarily ask her to handle the animals. I've never yet lost a relationship with any of my animals for being gone for an extended amount of time. I usually come back and they're still going, "Hey, I'm here. Come get me. I want to see you now." The other thing about me is I don't share this a whole lot, but and there is some relevance to it. Is I'm a recovering addict, and I have this August I'll have 25 years clean. And when I say clean, I mean clean and sober. I'm probably the coolest square person you'll ever meet. There was a part of me that I kept reptiles while I was ripping and running and getting loaded, and I just think back to how irresponsible and negligent I was, right? And because of what I do for myself today, it really enhances the love and the care that I give to my animals. I mean, like, it's important. It is just absolutely important. And the reward, like I say, that I get back from these animals, if I could license them as therapy animals, I absolutely would. But they give to me something that, No,
go ahead. I'm here. I'm just giving you the line.
Oh, okay. I thought, oh my God, I'm by myself. They give me the enjoyment and the reward that I can't explain it. I think if you're a retic keeper, you get it. You get it. Or maybe if you're a reptile, if you own a reptile, I often think that reptile keepers are like on this little island, right? And everybody kind of doesn't like us. They don't like our animals. We're this, that, and the other because we own what we own. And, that's why we need each other. We need to get that island bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and stand together so that we can kind of help educate people and show them that, what, there's people out there who put not just reticulated pythons, but they'll put anything in a negative light. And when the general public sees that, that's what they equate with, right? That's why it's important to me. You'll never see anything negative on my channel. You'll never see anything that breeds negativity to the public about a reptile. I want it to be like you guys have said, right? Like you say, you treat your animals so well and you put them in such a positive light. When somebody says that to me, I can't describe how that makes me feel inside. It makes me feel like I'm really doing justice for my animals and for the community as a whole. that's what I want to do. You know, that's what it's the passion that we talk about, and that is my passion.
Well, I would definitely say, and I can definitely say, you just honestly like are so passionate, and you are one of those people in the community like Bosa. Nobody has anything unfavorable to say about Gary. And that lets you know how powerful your message is, how positive that you are. I know for me, I love watching everything that you post. I love this community that you're building, you know, with the reticulated python community, because when you think about it, there's not a lot for just us. You know what I mean? That's exclusive to the keeping, exclusive to the keepers, and how to better keep our animals. So, you know, kudos to you for continuing that crusade to make sure that all the way around we're supporting US ARC, but we're also doing it because we know that if anything is attacked, it's the animals we keep first, the large constrictors.
Right.
Yep. So
absolutely.
I definitely appreciate the time that you spent with me today. I will be with Gary and the ladies tonight, rocking Retics. Y'all,
Yeah,
it's 6 o'clock Central. No, 6 o'clock Pacific. And
6 o'clock Pacific time.
So, and that's on Gary's channel, Constricted and Addicted. Both, if you're still in the background, he may have dropped it, but if you can drop it again while we do the outro, that would be absolutely amazing. I want to thank all of y'all who stuck in here this entire time, and everyone who was here and had to check out. Thank you. Thank you. Gary, any final words you want to give to the people? Thanks, Bosa. Thanks, James. Good seeing you here.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to say, and that is, first of all, thank you very much for asking me to do this. It was an honor. I want to thank everybody who supported the channel, who came. Maybe you knew I was going to be on. I want to thank you if that's the case. And the last thing I want to say is please support US ARC Florida. If you cannot afford a US ARC or a US ARC Florida membership, please contact me. I will help you do it. You know, with this, all I ask is that it's a year membership. Save $40 in the next 12 months and keep that membership active. That's all I ask. We need each other right now. US ARC needs us. This is not a US. This is a reciprocating deal here. We need US ARC. US ARC needs us. If we want to keep our animals, if we want to keep our exotics, then we need each other. So please support US ARC Florida.
Absolutely. And just want to remind everybody, Bosa, I'm keeping this one. I love it. May 10th through 11th in Miami, Florida. It is the tag meeting. It seems that May 11th will be the date that's most important to be present. But if you can be present, please do so. In Miami, Florida. That's the information right there. If you want to screenshot it, or if not, it's on my page. It's on US ARC Florida page as well. And to that, we're going to go ahead and do our outro. And thank you all. And we will see you guys tonight at 9 p.m.
6 p.m. Pacific time. Women rocking Retics.
Yes, I can't wait. See you soon.
This episode is brought to you by Beat It by Sadie's. Mercedes can provide you that flair we like around our waistline. She can provide that in your favorite color, also with your favorite reptile charm. Check out Beat It by Sadie's on Instagram and on Facebook. All Maryland Reptile Show has been the longest running Maryland reptile show in the DMV area. Thank you for bringing us quality animals for the longest time.